Well, hello everybody, and good day to you. Talking to you all the way from Hickory Corners, Michigan. It's about 80 degrees out, really nice, and it's supposed to get pretty darn hot for the rest of the week. But right now we're not doing too bad. So anyway, this is Old Goldwings Podcast number 4, and you really need to go over there to the Old Goldwings page on Facebook. Just do a search and answer a couple of questions because it's a private page. And that way they know you're not a bot or anything, and you're good to go. And they got a lot of good people over there that answer questions, and it's just an all-around good place to hang out. So I had a great weekend riding around to the northeast of us. I live here in Hickory Corners, like I said, Michigan, and went to Vermontville, Nashville, to check out some good places to hang out for the day. A Saturday, actually, is what it was. Super nice day out. Not too hot, not too humid. It's just right, actually. Really, I didn't see that many motorcycles out until you got actually up into town at the two places we went to. But anyway, you got to love those places you come up to out of nowhere. You know, you just make a stop to get something to eat or gas up or just look around. And I've actually got biking friends who ask, you know, where do you come up with all the out-of-town places you show on Facebook sometimes? And I just say, hey, it's easy. Just get the map out, look for the tiny roads leading through small four-corner towns, at least about 50 miles away. And then branch out from there. There's usually a place just outside of town that you can click on in Google Maps and see pictures of what the potential place you want to see looks like. And that works for me. That way I don't, have too big of a surprise when I get to where I'm going, unless the place is just closed. And in that case, you just move on down the road. And as soon as I do that, I just send the directions right to my phone and go. And I usually do like 100-mile round trip. It kind of makes it an all-around easy going run, and you still have time, when you get home to do other stuff that needs to get done or not. I usually wind up cooking ribs on my pellet grill out on the front porch. So, it's for later on that night. So, yes. So, with that being said, got another carb set done this past week. Actually, it come in a week ago Friday. It's for a customer over in Wisconsin. And I went back and forth with him for, 5 or 6 days. He was asking questions about what he should do and how much it's going to cost. And next thing I know, he sent a message saying, hey, it's on its way if I could just get you to fix the leak. So then I explained to him, yeah, I can do that. But I said, I'm not going to guarantee anything outside of that, because he claimed that it had been rebuilt the year before because he just got the bike. And he said it was running great, except for just leaked gas. So anyway, I got it, put it on my bench and put a little pressure test to it. I've got a syringe that I fill up with gas, and then I shoot it directly into the carburetor. Give it just a light squeeze. Put a little bit of pressure on it, because those fuel pumps only put out about 2 pounds of pressure. So I did that till I got a little resistance, and I let it sit there, and sure enough, the plenum right towards the back side of the carburetor started building up gas. So I went, okay. I was wondering how he's even able to go out and ride around with gas like that coming out. So I proceeded to flip it upside down. I pulled off each of the carb bowls, checked the flow levels. Those were good. And the float valves, those look fine. The tips of them, in good shape. Everything looked good, actually, there. So then I thought, all right. So that's when I split the case, the plenum, the two halves. and proceeded to pop the one half apart from the carbs. I put it in a little jig I've got so it holds the carbs in place, so I don't have to split those carbs, because I'm not going any deeper than I have to. He just wanted, the leaks fixed, and I could easily tell that the tubes between the carbs that feed the gas and the accelerator pump gas, those were not leaking. So I left the carbs together, and I just pulled the plenum off. Sure enough, the larger inlet that feeds gas, the O-ring in there didn't even fit. It was way too small. It looks like somebody had just cut the tip off of a plastic fuel line, stuffed it in there. And then on the accelerator pump output right there was actually that little O-ring was a round one. They're supposed to be a half D shaped, and they're supposed to have just a little resistance when you put them in place. And this was not going on there. So right there, that told me, okay, that's where part of the leak was. So anyway, I replaced those with the Randak O-rings, Viton O-rings. Fitted those back in. So those have been corrected. So then I went on to the other side, and that was actually missing the larger O-ring. And then the smaller for the accelerator pump was just a little piece of an O-ring. Didn't fit in there tight or anything. So I have no idea why he said that thing was running good, only leaked gas though. So I don't know. And then that straw that's supposed to go into the accelerator pump orifice, that goes between the two plenums when you put them together, it restricts the gas a little bit. That was in the wrong hole. They put it right in the larger oblong gas where the gas comes through, instead of the smaller one off to the left. And that was jammed in there. So I had to do a little bit of work, pull that out, and put it in its right place. Put it in a new plenum gasket. And, put it all back together. Did a pressure check and let it sit for a couple hours, and perfect. No leaks. I didn't have to do any kind of bench sinking because I didn't separate the carbs. So I did exactly what he wanted. I got right in there and fixed the leak he had. But as soon as I told him what was going on, he couldn't believe it. He goes, well, that guy was dead serious. He goes, yeah, he said he rebuilt that carb completely. I will say the carb was absolutely clean. The float bowls were all clean. But, yeah, just little telltale signs there that it's just a half-ass job. But anyway, so I got that done. I just mailed that off to him today, and he's a happy camper now. So, yeah. So, okay, let's see here. I'm going to get down here a little bit, and I'm going to go around the forums here. Different questions and answers I've noticed that were kind of heated, or there wasn't really a good right answer, quote unquote. But I come up with an interesting question that come up about average temp on the final drive of a motorcycle. And I'm talking about the Goldwings. I've got an 83 Interstate. And that is a good question because those do get hot. The final drive in the back get quite hot, actually. And so I did some nosing around plus reading up on people's answers on the forum. And, I just never considered the temp, but I did check mine a while back after a good ride, and it was pretty hot to the touch, to say the least. And figuring 250 degrees is where oil starts giving up, mine averages on a warm day, 80 degrees or so. I get about 125 to 150-ish on the temperature. So I think I'm safe because I was using one of those thermal temperature hand units. So, yeah, but it does get pretty doggone warm, but you figure what it's supposed to do. that's a lot of friction going on, dragging around 800 plus pounds. So, got to keep good oil in there. And I use Valvoline 80 W90 final drive gear oil right along with Valvoline 2050 for, the motorcycle brand oil in the engine. And, I love it. Valvoline, it's good stuff. So you figure temperatures in my area for, daily temperatures are anywhere from 60 to, say, 95 degrees. So those weights of oil are just about right for me. With that, here's another one that is kind of right up there with what kind of oil should I use type of question, and we know how those goes. And I thought it was pretty interesting. It seems cut and dry, but there's a lot of people that swear up and down that the red and yellow dot on your tires, what does that mean? I knew there was a red dot that you usually see on there, but I don't think I've ever seen a yellow one. But, let's see here. Where I got that? I got some information on that get off the internet here. And it says, what does a red dot and a yellow dot on your tire mean? And the yellow dot identify where a tire weighs the least. The lightest point on our tire. The yellow dot should be lined up and directly next to the valve stem, which is the wheel's heaviest point. And the red dots, which I didn't know anything about, identify where the tire is flattest. It's the lowest point on a tire. The red dot should be directly across from the highest point of the wheel, which is usually indicated by colored dots or a notch on the wheel. And if a tire has a yellow and a red dot, the red dot takes precedence when balancing the tire. So, I don't know. That's coming from the manufacturers. You get some guys on these forums here that do this all the time. They got their real fancy tire balancers, and they swear up and down those two don't mean nothing. Ultimately, the tire balancers is not consistent with those two, so they don't, they disregard them. But then you get the old timers out there that don't have the fancy equipment, who have always heeded that rule that says that works best, and that's your starting point right there. So I guess I'm not going to argue with that. But I just thought that was a neat little bit of information there. And let's see here. Okay, I guess here's one of the last questions I've seen on the forums that never really gets answered, and this one is pretty detailed. And it has to do with how to get information on a bike that you're really zeroing in on before you take that big step and buy it. Now, I remember when I bought mine, I didn't do half of this stuff, but I don't know. I'm sure there's people out there that will go through this list, but just to kind of go through them here, on the initial telephone contact, of course, you want to check the mileage, see how many miles are on the potential bike, and make sure it's got a clear title, and hopefully there's some maintenance records. The guy verbally told me about my bike. He had a local Honda dealership that he said I could go to and get all the information I needed on that bike before I owned it. So I thought that was kind of nice. But the bike was really nice and clean. He actually let me take it out. He just said, hey, jump on it, see what you think. Real nice, he's a retired detective, and he just went and bought a bigger Goldwing, and he wanted to offload that one because he didn't have room in his garage for two bikes. And it was obviously maintained and kept up in a garage because it's really still in good shape compared to a lot of other bikes I've seen where frames are rotted out or poor things have just been sitting outside, getting rained on. But, just make sure, clear title, maintenance records, check for any accidents. You can get on and online, I think for $10 or something, you can do a check to see if it's been in any. I did mine, and nothing there. And, ask about the electrical, mechanical issues if there's any. And this one I hear I'm not too sure, and that's willing to do a dealer inspection. And I've seen where, I've had people ask me to come out with them to check a car over and see what I think about it. But I don't know. This almost indicates you'd take this to a dealership and have them look it over. But I don't know if a potential owner, if the owner would go that far or not. I don't know. For a motorcycle anyway. But anyway, if all goes well over the initial phone contact and then you actually make it out there for an in-person inspection, you should ask where it's been stored. It's easy to tell if it's been taken care of, or just look at the surroundings. See if you just put a tarp over it or if it sits in the garage or whatever. Check the odometer. Make sure it kind of matches to what the bike looks like. That can be kind of tough sometimes. But look for a clear windshield, not a bunch of scratches in it that'll drive you nuts when you hit the sun just right. And look for clear headlights, not all dull. Just nasty looking headlight. And clear gauge windows. Mine are a little bit fogged up naturally, just on the lighter edges, around the edges really. But it's no big deal. They still work fine. Check the rearview mirrors, left and right side. Make sure they're on good and tight and that they don't vibrate out of position on you. I've had bikes like that where they're just fine when you're sitting still, but once you get riding, they just vibrate out of, your setting there. That'll drive you nuts. And check the paint and the plastic condition. It's like if it's got side bags or baggage, containers or a fairing on the front. Make sure there's no stress cracks or if it's been tipped over or anything. Wind deflectors. Yeah. That's kind of an accessory, really. Air vents. Make sure there's nothing. They're not taped over or propped up or anything like that. Seat condition, that's a good one. That'll tell you what kind of condition the bike's really been kept in, as far as, indoors or outdoors. Backrest, same thing. Sometimes the stitching will break loose in the corners, from moving back and forth on the bike when you get on and off of it, and it puts a little stress on it. Storage compartments, that'd be the side bags and what have you. Make sure they're tight, not rattling or cracked. When I got mine, the bottom of them had some stress cracks in them where they mounted to the frame there, but that was no big deal. I got that fixed. And the storage locks, make sure, the keys that you're going to get are going to, of course, go in the ignition, and then make sure if there's any extra keys that they're going to lock or unlock the accessories like that. Luggage rack, look that over, make sure that's not been around or it's like something super heavy's been on there or something it's been on there for a long time and it's just rubbed, like the chrome off or whatever. Tools, tool bag, man, those are about $150. If you don't have one of those, I was lucky enough with mine. I had a brand new one, the Honda tool bag, which will get you going for most problems if you get pulled, side of the road problems or whatever. And manuals, you're probably just gonna, I don't know, sometimes I've had bikes before where the guy tossed in the manuals, it's not doing them any good. And I just got one online. I think I paid $35. It's a Climbers, I think it is, Climbers manual, which is pretty good. But I get a lot of my information right off the internet or YouTube. And helmets, I don't know about that. That's kind of a personal thing. They could probably keep the helmets. I don't think I've ever had anybody give me a helmet when I bought a bike. But hey, if they throw them in, what the heck? An intercom system, yeah, that's something I've never had to deal with. A side stand, that's a good one because a lot of weight on that. And I've seen older bikes where the side stands rust out where they weld it up into the frame. And might want to check up in there and make sure nobody's cobbled that together and welded up pieces or anything like that to hold that stand up. Same thing with the center stand. Make sure it's free and easy to get the bike up in a center stand. Driver foot pegs. Yeah, it kind of gives an indication of how much wear and tear has been put on the bike. Same thing with the passenger foot pegs. Feel under any tip over guards. See if the bike's been tipped over before or not. And check the belly pan cover. Make sure that thing hasn't been bottomed out over a curb or anything, going over a curb or whatever. And another good one is muffler corrosion. They all look good on the outside, but there's a lot of welded points in a muffler system, especially, on the earlier Goldwings like that. And at this point in time, 40-plus-year-old bike, you're not going to just go out and buy another exhaust system. And if you do, and you're looking about $600 or better. Timing belt replacement, I did that with mine. A lot of times, people don't keep up with that. I know when I finally pulled mine off, there was no indication of it's ever been replaced or not. I do know it said Honda on the belts. But, we're talking 40-year-old plus belts. They may look, new, but they're old. So, you might want to ask about that. Front brakes, rear brakes. Check the pads. Now, that's where you get into some problems because those pucks that push the brake pads out and squeeze the spindle will start to seize up if the brake fluid has never been changed or it's old. Moisture's gotten to it, and those will stick in place. So look close to that. Brake pads, same idea. You just kind of look at those and check for wear and tear on it. Tires, of course. You don't want nothing, I don't know, what is it, 10 years old or more? No matter what they look like. They're just, it's just the same idea as the timing belt. They might look good, but those tires will give out. And what else? The clutch. There's another one. You got a manual clutch. Make sure it doesn't chatter or anything. And because there's people out there that put in additives in their oil because the clutch is a wet clutch. It mixes in with the engine oil. And if you put the wrong stuff in there, you're going to get some slipping going on, especially if you use certain kinds of synthetic oils. But that's a whole different story right there. As far as the throttle goes, make sure it's free and clear. You get good, the throttle snaps back into place. Shifter is another good one. Make sure it shifts smoothly, doesn't chatter, doesn't jam into gear or pop out of gear. And if it has a reverse, which I don't have, make sure that works. Left turn signals, right turn signals, headlights, low, high beams, hazard lights. Check the horn. Radio, if you're lucky enough to have a radio, check it. Speakers, blah, blah, CDs, CBs. I don't know about that, but cruise control. The guy's nice enough to let you drive it, Excuse me, you can check over a lot of this stuff, but kill switch, make sure it cuts the engine off immediately. Neutral light, that's always a handy item. So when you're in neutral, you got the green light showing. If you don't have that, that's kind of a pain in the neck to fix if that neutral light doesn't work. Engine gauges, make sure they come up to speed there and show what's actually happening. Spare fuses. Check on that. Down there by the battery and then up under the Fox tank. You got a fuse block there. Like I said, on my 83, it has it in the fake tank there. Just check dash lights, controls, and start it, run it for a while, make sure it's not going to overheat, make sure the gauges are showing up like they're supposed to. And check the oil. That's another one. And because there's a sight glass on the side of the engine. It's kind of hard to get to, but it's there. You can check that, make sure the oil's up, and then hopefully, like I said, take it for a test drive. And I got lucky. The guy, like I said, just let me jump on it and go. Didn't take me long to decide I really like the bike. So it's up to you. If it feels good, grab it. If it don't, move along. Either that or negotiate a little bit. But anyway, that's about it for what I got going on this podcast. I hope everybody has a good day and a good week and good travels out there. And we'll see you next time.